What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we start our brand new series, How to Finish Your Basement DIY for Beginners. Now look, 5 years ago, my wife and I moved to Connecticut, and we built this house that we're in. It's a beautiful house, but we just did not have the money at the time to finish the basement. We put the money into everything upstairs, the bathrooms, the kitchen. It's all very nice, but we just did not have the money at the time to finish the basement. And look, it's a 1,500 square foot space. It's a very big space. And I finally have gotten the itch to just knock it out and do it DIY. For those of you just right off the bat wondering how much am I going to save by doing this, we've gotten 4 or 5 quotes for the basement. Anything I think from like 65 or 70,000 upwards to like 120,000 if we want to have a bathroom down here. And that's outrageous. I just can't justify that. And I'm going to try to do it myself. I will bring certain professionals in for certain things like the HVAC, some of the electrical, connecting it to the breaker board, for instance. But for the most part, I am going to DIY this basement. I can't wait to share it with you all. All right, so first things first, and I want to caveat, if you are going to tackle a project of this size yourself, make sure 1, you pull a permit, 2, know the code in your area for things like insulation, electrical, plumbing, etc. And also, if you are going to bring in any contractors to help along the way, like I do plan to, make sure they are licensed and insured. Do not necessarily go off everything I do in my video here and my series here that I'll be posting to YouTube. I'm doing things kind of my way. Your town may have different permits. They may have different codes. So I'm going to be showing you the order in which to do things, how to do things. But again, know your code, pull a permit where you live. First thing you want to do is measure. The second thing you want to do is have a plan. I actually used Microsoft Excel, and I will show you how here in a minute. The third thing, make sure you buy the right tools. If you're going to spend 20 grand to save 80 grand in my case, make sure you spend, the $500 or so to buy the right tools. Next thing, you want to make sure you probably do HVAC first. I'll come back to that, but the HVAC, you have to have the ducting done because you have to box and frame around that at some point, and then drywall. You want to make sure you do the insulation. Then next, we're going to go over that today. Then you want to do framing. Then you want to do the electrical. So think about, like, do you want to run Cat 6 or Ethernet wiring, coaxial cable, RG6, speaker wire, camera wire? Where do you want light switches? Where do you want electrical outlets? Things like that. So electrical's next, then drywall, then paint, then flooring, then trim, and then probably painting the trim. And I think that's the order I'm going to go in to finish my basement. All right, step 1, get your measuring tape and measure your basement. Now, if you don't already have a measuring tape, I'm gonna go on a whim and say you probably should not be DIYing your basement. Call a professional. But if you do have a measuring tape, look, you want to do length and you want to do a height, and you want to do that for kind of the entire basement. Obviously, mine's not a perfect rectangle. I have 2 sides. So you absolutely want to measure. Your measuring will impact the quantity of insulation, of drywall material, of 2x4s to frame out the basement. It really impacts everything. Once you have your measurements, the second thing that I actually did, and I mentioned Excel earlier, was you can actually create a picture in Excel. If you shrink all the columns and make all these cells, square, it actually is a great tool to come up with a design for your basement. You can see here, the black is my stairs. We're actually standing in zone 2 right now where my cursor is. The windows, the door, here's where my HVAC is. Here's my well pump. Here's where my IT cabinet is with all my speaker wire, camera wire, etc. Septic, hot water heater. That's really handy. I have found that to be so handy because A, I can visualize it in a 2-dimensional form. And then I can also kind of think about where I want to put certain things. Because of this, I have been able to figure out where I want to put the bathroom, where I'm going to be putting walls. And to be honest, I do recommend, even if you are not experienced with Excel, if you guys have Google Sheets, if you have a Gmail account, you can use Google Sheets for free. Okay, you have your measurements, you've got your picture in Excel, you've got an idea of what you want to do. The second thing that I started doing is laying out my materials. Insulation, the adhesive for the insulation, the 2x4s, the type of drywall. You want to make sure you use mold-resistant drywall in a basement. 5/8 typically for the ceiling, 1/2 inch for the walls. Get your measurements, get your design in Excel, lay out what you're going to need, lay out the order, start brainstorming. Do you want a sauna? Do you want a TV room? Do you want a bar? Think about all those things that you might want to have in your basement. Lay it all out. That's what I've done here. I've laid out everything, the order I'm going to do stuff in, the cost, the zoning. I'm trying to lay out some ideas like speakers, where I want to have a wine rack, do I want a bedroom, things like that. So start with that before you do anything else. I also brought up earlier was HVAC. I actually already had that done. So when they built my house, this HVAC was a 3-zone system. So 2 zones are already being used upstairs on the second floor. But I did have a professional come in and run ducting all in my basement here already. This insulation was already here when they built the house. But again, I did pay a professional to come in. You know, he ran this second hard line here next to the original one, which is there. But he ran the second one here, and then he ran all of the ducting for the basement. And again, why it's important that you do your Excel thing that I mentioned and lay out where you want it, because I want the bathroom to be over here, and you need to have a vent in the bathroom. So it's important that you communicate, you have a really good idea, and once you start doing things like HVAC, it's hard to go back. You can go back, but make sure you get the HVAC done. Now, for those of you wondering, what was the cost to have somebody come in and do all this? $2,500. All right, so step 1, measure. Step 2, get your design down. Step 3, get your tools. Step 4, run your HVAC. Step 5, we are on to insulation. Now, for those of you wondering, do I need a pickup truck to get my insulation and my 2x4s? The answer is no. Home Depot will actually deliver this to your door for like $79 in delivery fee. So I got 45 1-inch 8x4 foam boards, plus 24 of the caulk guns of the foam board adhesive delivered to my door for $79. Just the tools for phase 1. We went over the measuring tape. You also are going to want to have a straight edge to mark on your foam board where you need to cut when the time comes to cut pieces to fit around certain things. I got a Sharpie for that. I got some tin snips here. I'll show you why in a minute. You got to have your caulk gun for the foam board adhesive. You have to have like a razor blade or an X-Acto knife to score your foam board. A chisel. This is to knock off some of the nubs from the molds when they poured your foundation. I will show you that. Hammer for the chisel. And then I'll be honest, I forget why I brought these down. For whatever reason, my foundation has some wire coming out of it. So that's what the tin snips are for. So we'll just grab these and we'll cut those off. And then also, there's a ton of these, maybe you can see it better there, mold nubs. So they get knocked off really easily. But again, that's what the chisel is for. I got this one off Amazon, Target Guard. It's got the protector for your palm, so you don't smash your hand when you're going to hammer it. I don't know. I forget how much it was, 10, 20 bucks maybe, but it's nice to have a chisel. So I'm going to bang that out. I'm going to get the tin snips. I'm going to cut off the wire. I'm going to knock off the nubs for this entire wall. And then we're going to start putting down the foam board. Look, I was watching a lot of videos on these foam board adhesives. I think I'm going to go about 1 stick per 2 to 2.5 foam boards. I did buy 24 of them for 45 boards. And don't skimp on the adhesive for the foam board. You don't want the stuff popping off the wall. All right, also, I think it goes without saying, but when you are chiseling off those little nubs I talked about on the foundation wall, wear safety protection, wear eye goggles. I honestly forgot to put them on, but I highly recommend you do that. I just had to knock off some more behind camera, and I was getting whacked in the face by the stone. So wear safety goggles, guys. All right, we're going to start globbing some of the adhesive on here. Now, they recommend you do like lines down the board, I think about 10 inches apart. So you'd wind up with call it 9 or 10 lines. I'm not going to do that. I read a lot online. I watched a lot of other videos and DIYers. They recommended putting like big globs. These walls, they're porous. There is some like stone dust still from when they built the house and just dust out here in general. I don't think a thin bead is going to hold it very well. Plus, they are imperfect. Again, there's still some like ridges on the walls from when they were pouring the concrete from the molds. So I don't want to have to deal with them falling off later. So I'm going to put nice thick globs of the adhesive on here and then slap them on the wall. All right, well, it's about 10:45 on day one. All in today, I've spent about 3 hours working on the insulation in the basement. So I did like an hour when I first started shooting, took the kids and the family to dinner, came back, banged out 2 more hours. So you can see it goes pretty quickly. So after 3 hours, I was able to get all of this done. Again, I'm going to come back and I'm going to cut out the pieces to go around some of the more complicated areas. But I was able to get all of this done. And actually, I'm even halfway done the other room over here, and I even cut out some of the complex corners. So check this out. So this room, I've gotten all of this done. So I actually cut it to go around where the well comes in the house, around the outlet, around the I-beam at the top here. So all we have left is really these walls and the other side over there. Now, again, I still have to fill in the top 6 inches. I have to finish up the other third, roughly, of the basement, not quite half of the basement. So that's still going to take me probably another, I'm guessing, 3 to 5 hours, because I do have some complicated things left. Now, a couple things I learned that you guys should definitely write down. One is you want to use more rather than less of the foam adhesive. It tends to want to pull off the wall. So you want to use more rather than less. And to the extent you have something heavy, like I have a dog crate leaning against that side right now, you want to try to brace these against the wall for at least 20 minutes, if not an hour, where they will kind of bow off. One. Number two, I have to go out and buy it tomorrow, but I do need to get some spray foam. So some of the areas where it's not quite as flush and I have more on the other side, but you want to like spray in between. This is actually a bad example, but if you have more of a gap, like a 1/4 of an inch or more gap, you do want to get spray foam, like the canned aerosol spray foam, fill that in. And then what you want to do when you're all said and done is you get sealant tape and you tape along the seams. So once I'm done everything at the top and I'm done edging in the rest of the basement, and the rest of the basement is all insulated, I am going to go back, spray foam any of the seams, and then tape everything. And that tape will also help hold the foam board insulation up against the walls. Then obviously a 2x4 framing goes against the front of that. Fortunately, my foundation on a newer house is pretty straight. I put a level on it earlier. So my 2x4 framing should be pretty much nice and tight up against the foam board. That'll help hold that against the wall. I'm going to call it a night. I will see you guys tomorrow morning for day 2. All right, so we're back, day 2. We're going to keep cranking on the insulation stage of finishing my basement. I got a lot done off camera, actually. I got the top sections cut up here. I'll come back to that. You can see I've started taping some of the seams. I have not done spray foam for any of the open areas yet. You can see like up here, I've got a little bit of like a gap where I need to do some spray foam, but I got a lot done. So I've gotten the electrical panel done right there. I've gotten all around the piping to the septic system. This side's done. Again, and this whole side is very close to being done. I have to finish the top sections up there, but we're getting really close. Now, there's a couple things that I wanted to clarify if you're watching this video, one of which is my house is, again, built in 2017. It's very new. I know for a fact, because I was here while they were building it, that the foundation slab and the foundation walls are waterproofed. I do not need to have a water or moisture barrier installed when I'm doing this basement. Now, what you can do is if you get like duct tape and some plastic on the walls in a square, do the same on the floor. Let that sit for about 48 hours. Typically, if you're going to have a moisture problem, you will see like the condensation build up on the plastic. That lets you know you should absolutely do a vapor or moisture barrier before you start insulating, framing, etc. So just be aware of that. All right, so second thing, these top sections. So even with a newer house, I have found that there is a slight grade in my foundation slab. Measurement from that stud there to the top of this 4x8 is, call it 6 inches. And down here, that might have been 6 inches and a quarter. Make sure you are measuring everywhere that you're going to have to cut a piece of insulation to fit. And the same actually goes for when you're framing. And what you want to do is you want to measure that. And if one side is 6 1/4 and one side is 6 1/2, when you come over to your foam board, you want to measure out 6 inches down here, put a mark. And if it's 6 1/2 down here, you come down here, 6 1/2, and you put a mark. And then you want to get a straight edge long enough to draw from one end to the other. And you're going to have a slight again, diagonal line, it's not going to be a straight line, but that's so you can fill these gaps appropriately. So just be aware of that. Make sure you're doing it. Always measure twice, cut once. You guys know the rule. All right, another thing is with respect to the foam board glue, I found out that 12 blobs or dots of the foam board glue works the best by far. I kept the boards nicely tight against the wall without any bowing off. Make sure you brace the board. So I was actually leaning anything I had against these. You can see down here, actually for this board, I have a dog crate leaning against it while it dries. You don't need to have a ton of weight against it because these boards are pretty rigid, but 12 blobs about this big around, about 3/4 to an inch high, 12 blobs per board. I got through 2.5 boards per tube of glue. Just be aware of that. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to finish filling some of these top seams up here. I'm going to finish that off. I got to come back and I'm going to, wherever I need to, I'm going to spray foam any of the cracks. I still have to obviously tape all these joints. I started taping some of these joints over here today. If you're curious what kind of tape I'm using, it's just the, can't really see it here too well, but it's the Everbuilt seam tape. It's like $13 a roll. Picked it up from Home Depot today, super handy. And then also, I got some spray foam too that works well. You can reuse it. So it's the gaps and cracks spray foam with the tube there. You can use that. One can will probably do your entire basement. So good to know. And with that, I think we're going to get cranking, guys. So let me put you down. Another time lapse is underway. All right, and with that, I think I'm going to end off the video here. I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown one more time. Remember, step 1, measure your basement. Step 2, honestly, I thought Excel was a good idea. If you go back to the beginning of the video, I kind of show you all how to use Excel to kind of map out the dimensions of your basement on an Excel file. That way you can visualize, where your utility room has to be, etc., where you want to put your bathroom. So I think having that visualization and kind of being able to play around with it before you solidify your plans, crucial. Get your HVAC installed. And again, you can't really install your HVAC until you have a plan, because there has to be ducting to the bathroom and any other room you're going to block off. So again, the plan is important. And with that, we jumped into the insulation. So again, I showed you guys how I went about installing this. You get the foam board adhesive you put on the back, slap that on the wall. Make sure you kind of measure at each beginning and ending stud, because not every distance at the top there is going to be equal. For instance, that could be 6 inches, that could be 6 1/4. But again, I wanted a nice tight fit. I'm a little OCD. So make sure you measure measure twice, cut once. And the last thing you want to do is you do want to spray foam any big gaps. And I'll show you some more down here. Spray foam any of the big gaps. And then honestly, I came back today with a razor blade and I just slimmed right along the line here. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to tape that seam. So again, it was a pretty easy process. I'm really about, honestly, 3 days in. I'm about probably 8 hours in into doing this right now. I have the entire basement done besides just this one corner over here, just because it's a bit goofy with the windows and there's not a whole lot of space to build out on this wall right here where that door is. So I'm going to deal with that kind of off camera. I did want to give you guys just a baseline. Don't forget, if your house is older, check for moisture. Make sure you know the code around having a moisture or vapor barrier. That might just literally be required, not only because of the code, because if you don't, you'll get mold. So make sure you're aware of that. And again, the last thing you do is just go around taping all of your seams. So how much did this all cost me? So for roughly a 1,500 square foot bathroom, all of my materials from the tape the insulation foam board, the glue. It's probably it. I mean, the foam, the spray foam, which is like $5. My material cost was $1,834. I was quoted $3,900, almost $4,000 just to do the insulation. And again, in a matter of a couple hours a day here and there, knocking this out, I have saved over $2,000 from the very get-go. So I look forward to seeing the next phases of this project. The next thing we're going to do is start framing out the 2x4s. They get delivered on Monday, July 3rd. So if you're watching this video, I'm getting the 2x4s delivered in about 2 days from when I'm finishing the basement. I can't wait for that. If you guys enjoyed this, please subscribe, please thumb up, please comment below. If you have questions, I'll be down there trying to reply to them. I'll be monitoring them. I really appreciate the support. And stay tuned, guys, because again, I'm going to do the entire basement from concrete foundation through a finished full bathroom down here. So I can't wait to see it all done. I appreciate all the support. I'll catch you guys in the next video. But until I see you next time, get in the gym, take care of yourselves, and freaking live your dream. I'll catch you next time.